Welcome to Screening Minds It's Not Just a Movie, where we combine two of my loves, cinema and the social sciences. I'm your host, Afsar, a self-proclaimed Bollywood buff and cinephile, a deep overthinker, probably rooted in my education and career in the social sciences, or maybe my natural temperaments. Join me as we delve deep into the psychosocial themes portrayed on screen, dissecting the profound impact they have on our thoughts, behaviors, and society at large. From the complexities of love and loss to the intricate facets of mental health and societal norms, each episode will unravel the layers of storytelling, psychology, and culture, inviting you to explore the mesmerizing intersection of entertainment and the human mind. So, if you're a film buff, psychology enthusiast, or simply curious about the intricacies of humans depicted on screen, Screening Minds promises to be your go-to podcast for unlocking the mysteries behind the most compelling stories in entertainment. You may even find a decent clapback for when your friend tells you it's just a movie, because we all know it's not just a movie. In this very short introductory video, I want to talk to you a little bit about the inspirations behind this podcast. It will be unscripted, much unlike the chat GPT'd or TP, whatever it is, the AI generated introduction that you just heard, because I'm a big believer in doing the best that you can with the resources that you have. And I'm also a big believer in, if not now, then when. So you can find 1,001 reasons to not start something and to push something off because you're looking for perfectionism and you haven't got the right resources and you need to have time to edit. But you know what? With the resources that we have, this is the best that I can do. Don't have a lot of time or the fancy editing skills, so this will have to do for now until I can, I don't know, monetize and make money for editors to do this work for me. But that just shouldn't delay you trying to get your work out there. So just a little pep talk for anyone who has had similar thoughts. Then you know what, just do it. If there's one thing I've learned, for me, it's more important to build a community than to get things polished right now. So you are going to have to put up with the authentic ums and ahs and the pauses and my stammers on occasion. They sometimes come back if I'm particularly nervous, but we will do the best that we can. Now, the inspirations for this podcast came from three particular areas. I know in the introduction you heard me talking about my love for cinema and for the social sciences. Now, those two you could say have kind of always been ingrained in me for the longest time. But for this particular podcast, the first inspiration came from therapy or supervision, which is a kind of practice that I started to get into when I was training to be a coach, a positive psychology coaching consultant. Now, I started going to therapy, I started doing supervision as well, and being in that world and in that sphere, learning about being trauma informed and so on, you learn and pick up a lot of things. And my therapist at that time decided to use the analogy of movies with me because she knows I like movies. We were talking about traumatic experiences, and that when those happen, a person wants to generally escape it. We have a fight or flight response to protect us. It's evolutionary, right? But when something adverse is happening to you, sometimes that fight or flight is unavailable to us, and a person ends up freezing. And in those moments, we are essentially having a core need of ours not being met. Now, escapism or addictions are sometimes the things that manifest when we are unable to unfreeze for the rest of our lives. I'm doing a very, very crude summary about it, but you should definitely check out the works of trauma therapists and people who are involved in the field of trauma to understand a lot more about it. But in essence, in particular, the escapism that we spoke about was movies and films, books and music, because they are essentially a way that people get lost in. As you know, some of you guys may be listening and thinking, yeah, I do like to get lost in a fantasy world or lost in the lyrics or lost in the beat of this dance move or whatever. And sometimes when that is a trauma response or when that is a coping mechanism, it's because a person wants to be anywhere but that particularly adverse moment. So she asked me a question at the end of that session, which was, if your life was being played at the cinema, would you go and watch it? And that really hit a nerve with me. And it gave me subsequent questions that I have then gone on to ask some of my clients, such as, what does your character need in this part of the movie? Or what would you like to have said to the character who played you as a child? Now, these kind of the questions really got me thinking about the marriage between cinema and social sciences and therapeutic work. And it made me start considering about the role of cinema or movies as a tool for coaching or therapy and so on. The second inspiration in a similar light came from the Brown Therapist Network Mental Health Conference that I co-hosted last year in October 2023. Now, the Brown Therapist Network is a great community, and anyone who's listening to this and identifies as Brown or a therapist or a coach or anybody who works in that field, you are welcome to join. Absolutely. It's so inclusive. It's a great place to connect and learn and grow. Um, wow, subsequently, I didn't even realize I just read out the values of the Brown Therapist Network. But yeah, absolutely, you should get in touch and find out, or Google Brown Therapist Network, go to the website and click apply to be a member, I think it is. But either way, it's a fairly simple process, and then you'll get added to the community where we are hosting more events like that this year. And really, really proud and happy to say that I'm co-hosting and co-leading on some of those things. So really excited to have as many people there as possible. Now, my talk in that session was about a stellar performance that came out last year, in summer actually, sorry, 2023, and it was none other than Rocky Aur Rani Ki Prem Kahani. And I chose that movie because it was a really I just felt that it was so insightful into the way that society has changed since Karan Johar's movie Kabhi Khushi Kabhi Gum. His movie style has changed, his storylines has changed. I just felt that there were so many things that we could have unpicked from that. So I decided to do my talk on that. I received some great feedback from it. And using that encouragement and support, I figured, well, you know what, why not turn this into a series? And lo and behold, here we are. My third inspiration comes from a entertainment journalist who works for BBC Asian Network. You may have heard him on Beyond Bollywood. You may have heard him host events such as when Quickstyle came and performed last year in 2023 again with Hunters. He's also kind of doing Chandali Kawali nights as right now, actually, as I'm recording this. He's hosting those events. His name is Harun Rashid, and if you haven't checked out his work, I would highly recommend you do so. Now, I don't particularly have role models as such, but he's someone who I really admire for his work and his work ethic. He's someone who has journalistic integrity. I really appreciate what he posts, what he talks about. I really appreciate that he is authentic to his values, and he gives fair reviews of movies as they come out. He has worked with some of the biggest stars and interviewed them, and yet he does not shy away from asking those difficult questions, and that I think is quite admirable. It's something that I'd love to have the confidence and growth to do, but my work is slightly different in that I'm going to take for this podcast more of a psychosocial route and talk a little bit about how cinema can be an effective tool. So big up Harun Rashid for inspiring me to carry on and use my voice for this. Now, as a practitioner, I wonder, as I mentioned, how film and cinema can be used as a tool in our work. I invite open discussion and suggestions about that, and hopefully this podcast is a good conversation starter. So at any point, anytime I give some questions for you to think about, please feel free to drop ideas. By the end of it, hopefully we'll be able to share a rich resource bank of the different questions or interventions. So I'm going to round up this introduction here. And I just want to leave you with this one question, which again, the same thing that my therapist said to me, and it stayed with me. Obviously, it's very contextualized, but it's a starter that we can springboard. If you could see your life like a movie reel, you're at the cinema, what would you see? Until next time, I'll see you on the next episode where we do discuss Rocky Aur Rani Ki Prem Kahani. Take care, and remember, if your friend tells you it's just a movie, you know exactly what to say next. Bye.